The debut album from the British singer-songwriter Isabel Beardshaw, more commonly known by her stage name Izzy Bizu, comes after an early push that has seen her name linked to some of this country's most recent stars, having supported for the likes of Sam Smith, Foxes and Rudimental, being shortlisted for BBC's Sound of 2015, the Brits Critics' Choice Award of 2016, and played at Glastonbury a few months back. She has already done pretty well for herself, and with her debut album entitled A Moment of Madness, one can only feel like she's going to continue to do bigger and better things because this project is a damn solid start for the 22-year-old. The album is essentially Izzy going through the motions of being in relationships, although for the majority of the project, Izzy tends to exude a mix of regret, bitterness and jealousy, and sadness, but to her credit, she doesn't try and portray these feelings as something that should be accepted or simply taken in the man's stride. In fact, she freely admits to her faults and that she admits that she needs to change some of her ways. Tracks like Mad Behaviour and Circles both fall in line with each other. The first where she praises her fella for being a decent and all-round good person, yet she finds herself acting rather venomous and poisonous towards him but isn't sure why. Whilst lacking a sense of proactivity in the first, Circles sees Izzy admitting even more of her destructive ways and describes herself as both vicious and rotten. She calls upon her lover to help her towards becoming a better person despite him slipping further away from her. And What Makes You Happy also shows Izzy in a less than flattering picture where despite her fella wanting to go out and have fun, she chooses to be an out-and-out stubborn buzzkill and eventually ends up breaking things off with him. Glorious touches upon her jealous tendencies where she notices her fella's wandering eyes on other women, and whilst Izzy admits that this is something that she expects every now and then, but clearly shows that this is upsetting her before ultimately conceding that perhaps it's best to let this person go. On the flip side of things, Izzy doesn't come off as entirely unlikable and can at points present herself as the stable and dependable one in a relationship. Tracks such as Skinny and Gorgeous sees Izzy attempting to reassure her lover on both occasions. The first concerning her lover's self-consciousness when someone appears to be making eyes at Izzy in a nightclub but claims that this stranger isn't her type and she much prefers her lover's traits and physicality, and the second where Izzy's lover appears to hate what he sees in the mirror and his character has apparently changed over time and she makes it her mission to restore her fella's confidence. And the album's final track, I Know, is another song where her fella seems to have some personal issues and she attempts to act as his comfort blanket. Basically, come and lay them on me is what this song is saying. Other tracks include Diamond, where Izzy appears to be infatuated with someone who she seemingly cannot have. Adam and Eve follows a similar line, only this time Izzy freely admits that this person will be bad for her should she pursue this person. Naive Soul, which is essentially a your love is my drug type track. Give Me Love shows Izzy reflecting on someone who she has broken up with but admits to still harbouring feelings for the man. And White Tiger is in essence a track where she declares her infatuation for her lover. Instrumentally, this is where the album shines. Blending elements of pop, soul and R&B, there are plenty of tracks that offer up some enjoyable moments. White Tiger starts off with a slow and sensual piano opening before becoming more staccato and introducing sharp finger snaps and a danceable bass and drum beat halfway. The rattling drum piece combines well with the horns and soft electric guitar and synth strings lingering in the background as well. The bass on Gorgeous has a nice groove going to it, and the strings, horns and keyboards have a nice smoothness to them. Compliments go to the bass guitar on I Know, which works well with the drum beat, and delicate hints of guitar and fluttering synth flute and the horns pretty much control the whole of Naive Soul. The more down-tempo tracks on the album are also very pleasant as well, providing a nice balance to the more pumped up instrumentals. Tracks such as Diamond for its delicacy and lightness. In complete contrast, we have Mad Behaviour with its beautiful piano introduction before introducing the hard and thudding kick drums and bass heavy string instruments with the backing harmonies providing a nice counterbalance, and Circles for similar reasons, only with the strings opting for a lighter approach and the drums taking more of a backseat. Some of the songs that don't quite do much for me would be Give Me Love, where there's plenty going on in the track instrumentally, but I'm not entirely in love with Izzy's at times sporadic vocals that do feel as though they lack a bit of control, too often going up into her higher register, which seems out of place on the track. Lost Paradise, where there's not enough going on for me to really give a damn about the track, and What Makes You Happy, where it's easily the track where Izzy is the most insufferable both lyrically and vocally. In fact, one of my biggest issues with this album does appear with the vocals. Izzy's definitely a gifted singer and there have been many comparisons between her and Amy Winehouse, and whilst I can definitely relate to the critics in that regard, Winehouse always had more control, more emotional resonance and more maturity and wisdom in her delivery. I don't necessarily feel that Izzy is there yet in that regard. I think she goes into her upper register imposter far too often and needed to show a little more restraint and use those upper moments more sparingly than she does on this project. But in the end, I do find myself enjoying this album a great deal. This is definitely a great starting point for the young lady, and I remain optimistic that Izzy can take her brand further and create something even better in the future. Overall, I score this album a 76 out of 100.